was Charlie Finney? Charles Finney was born on 1st of February 1865. He was the youngest child of both Michael and Catherine Finney. He went to grade school in Atchison. When he left grade school, he went and got a job working as a clerk and a bookkeeper for a Dr. D.J. Holland of the Missouri Pacific Railway. Now, while he was working there with Dr. Holland, he had a hobby. And his hobby, the things he loved to do, was swimming, which he was a champion swimmer, and he also loved figure skating. So he would enter competitions with a partner and they would win most times. He was a champion after all. Also, Charlie had a friend, and he and his friend decided one day, I don't know why, but they did, that Charlie should dress as a woman and enter competitions in figure skating so they can win a few more prizes. No one even cottoned on that he was a boy, and he won these competitions, but eventually the jig was up. Somebody caught on and he was barred from ice skating, full stop. The article I found in the Daily Globe was, a prize of $5 in gold to the best gentleman skater in Atchison on New Year's night at the Palace Rink, open to all gentlemen skaters except C.C. Finney. So the jig was up, no more ice skating. Instead, he became a championship roller skater. Now, eventually Charlie went off to medical school in St. Louis. While he was there, he'd still come home every now and then and visit and stay at the Sallie house. And I found another article which made me laugh, and it was all about Charlie. He got up to mischief. He was in the local papers again. Charlie had to go to the dentist. So apparently this is what happened while waiting in the dentist's office. Charlie Finney and W.S. Anderson had a fight this morning, which came about in this way. A few days ago, a Miss Page, a sister-in-law of Anderson's, had a pocketbook containing $3 stolen from the dental rooms of Dr. Schultz. There were present in the room at the time a stranger and Charlie Finney. Neither was accused at the time of taking it, and the matter rested with an advertisement in the Globe until yesterday, when Anderson went to Dr. Schultz, and according to that gentleman's statement and that of Mr. Reed of the packing house, accused Finney of taking the pocketbook. Finney heard this morning that he had been so accused and went to the store of Mr. Anderson and asked him to step up to the doctor's office and retract his statement. Anderson said he had nothing to retract, and after a few words, Finney struck him over the head several times with a heavy cane. Nick Anderson, W.S. Anderson's father, was present and drew a revolver.
"Stand back, or I'll shoot!"
which he was prevented from using. Anderson claims that all he said was the taking of the money laid between Finney and the stranger. He refused to cause Finney's arrest, saying that Finney would, in retaliation, cause his father's arrest for drawing a deadly weapon. They ended up going to court, where they all got a slap on the wrist. Charlie got a fine, and the judge wasn't too happy with them. And I do believe, for a while anyway, Charlie kept out of trouble. Now, Charlie eventually graduated from university or college on March 14, 1894. He came home to Atchison, where he married his wife, Louise, and they built a house. Now, as you can see from the picture, there's a red brick house. That's the house that Dr. Charles Finney built, and that's the house he lived in with his wife, Louise, next door to the Sallie house and the house that James built. The inside of the house was lovely. I managed to get these photos from a real estate page. That's the best I could do. But very pretty little house. And that's where Dr. Finney and his wife Louise gave birth to their little son, Charles Finney Jr., who also, by the by, ended up becoming a doctor when he grew up, and actually even worked with Charlie at his rooms on the corner of 5th and Commercial. He had 2 rooms above the drugstore there. And I did find a little case in regard to something that Charlie did whilst a doctor, and I thought you might be interested in listening to it. Mary Clinton, employed at the Howard factory, suffered an excruciatingly painful accident this morning. She was running a riveter, a machine which rivets buttons upon garments. In some way, she got her right thumb directly under the punch, and the stem of the button was driven through it and clinched to the underside. It passed through the centre of the thumbnail, and the button was locked there, the same as if it were in a piece of goods. Dr. Finney, who was summoned, administered chloroform and cut the button off with a wire cutter. Another very interesting thing about Charles was that he was elected the town mayor in 1913, basically by a landslide. It was said, the local papers of the day said that all the women came out to vote for him. He was elected by the mothers of Atchison because he delivered all of the babies in the town. Now, he was mayor until 1916, when there was a bit of a scandal about one of the clubs that he was a member of, the Eagles Lodge. There was some selling of alcohol at the local lodge which wasn't allowed, and Charlie knew about it. Look, the newspapers did say, I have read the articles, the newspapers did say that Charlie wanted to explain himself, but instead he resigned. But although he resigned, he ran again for mayor. He wasn't elected, so he didn't get back into office, but I thought that was interesting. Charlie also owned quite a substantial amount of property in Atchison, over 20 homes and different shops, so he did well for himself. A few years later, June 14, 1918, aged 80, Catherine Finney, Charles's mum, passed away. She had been quite sick. She'd actually gone to hospital for a little while, then came home to Charlie. She stayed with Charlie and his wife at their home next door to the Sallie house, and that's where she passed away. Charlie and his sister Agnes were with her at that time when she passed. She had septicemia, which was a result of some gangrene in her foot. So she was laid to rest at Mount Calvary Cemetery as well. Now we come to the passing of Charlie. Charlie passed away on the 23rd of March 1947 at the Topeka Hospital. He was aged 82, and it was complications with age. He left his beautiful wife Louise behind, and he also left a very good reputation behind. He was a well-liked man in the community, and he had done a lot for the community of Atchison in his lifetime. Apart from being in the mayor, he was also a great doctor. Now we come to Louise Marie Finney, Charlie's wife. On October the 10th, she was at the church and had a fall. She fractured her vertebrae. She was taken to St Mary's Hospital. She stayed there for about a week, and then Charlie, her son, came and took her back to his house to care for her. But unfortunately she got worse, so she had to go back into hospital, and that is where she passed away on the 4th of January 1952. She is also buried at the Mount Calvary Cemetery. The deaths thus far in the Sallie house that are researchable, provable and documented are that of Michael Finney, Charles Catherine's and little Richard Finney. So far as Dr. Finney's home, the red brick house next to the Sallie house, at this time researchable deaths are only that of his mother Catherine. For those of you who might be interested, Amelia Earhart, a famous aviator, was actually born just down the road a little bit, hop, skip and a jump from the Sallie house at 223 North Terrace Street. That's now actually a museum, so if you're ever in Atchison, do go have a look. The reason I looked Amelia up in regard to Charlie was because he was a practicing doctor at the time and he was responsible for delivering a lot of the babies in the town. I thought perhaps it was him that delivered Amelia. That's her bedroom, by the way. It was actually her uncle, Dr. Edward Earhart, that delivered her. Now, one of the stories that I wanted to research, and I did, and could find no evidence at all to substantiate claims, was that a little girl was taken to Dr. Finney's house in the middle of the night, suffering from possibly appendicitis, where he attempted to operate on her, but she died in the Sallie house at the turn of the century. Well, a few things wrong with that. Number one, Dr. Charles Finney did not live in the Sallie house at the turn of the century. Indeed, he lived at this house, the red brick house, at 510, next door to the Sallie house. The other interesting thing is that you can see by the map there were 3 hospitals in Atchison at the time that this story takes place. So one wonders why the mother didn't take the child to one of those hospitals to seek assistance, given that they were so close to Dr. Finney's home anyway, and also the very fact that Dr. Finney would have probably had the brains to also, if he was going to operate, take a child to the hospital where he had the necessary implements to do such an operation. So that particular story I find a little hard to believe, given he didn't even live in the Sallie house when this was supposed to have taken place. So take that as you will, but that's my personal opinion on that story. The next episode, I will concentrate on Charlie's sister Agnes and her life. So I hope you join in and watch. Thanks, guys.
Get wicked.